are going live, and we can do like a super low-key introduction for you after a few minutes, but we can just hang out right now. Yeah, I think it's fun to do. I mean, like, we're both night owls anyway, so it works out really well. But also, it's cool because it gives people from like other time zones, I think, more options too, which is
Yeah, pretty much unless someone's
nice.
like in Britain or something where, you know, it's what, like 3:30 in the morning, they're probably
Right,
going to wait. Unless they're
it's
really,
3:30. Yeah.
I always love
But
that though when I stay up too late and then I start getting like the British people because they start posting at like 7 or 8 in the morning and I'm like, I don't want to think about how late I am. Or you, because you always post at like midnight or like 1 a.m. my time. And I'm
I
like,
know.
yes,
It's like midnight or 1 a.m. my time too. Sometimes like it's really
yeah.
it's not great.
It's always
Yeah.
pleasant when I'm like, I can't sleep. Oh, Kara, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
We can be insomnia buddies.
Yeah.
Hello, cool gamer. Welcome.
Hello.
We're starting a few minutes early, which is very unusual for me.
Yeah, it's normally late. Like I was just like I had like done everything and like gotten my coffee and stuff, and then I was like, well, it's early.
Yep, just
Is
like
it? I feel like it's. We don't know. I know we don't really feel it, but at like 10:30 to me versus like 7:30 to you, I feel like it actually feels like there's more of a difference of like where like I don't know where supper or whatever would have been for you.
yeah, I actually I tend to eat like around 6:30, like 6 or 6:30. I ate a little later tonight though, so like, but I still had plenty of time before this. That's one of the reasons I was thinking like 7:30 instead
Yeah.
of like 7, because I was like just in case,
Yes. Sometimes
which
that is that.
ended up being a good move. Okay, I guess I should say something on Instagram. That's a good idea. Um,
I yeah.
I normally would do all of that on Twitter, but it's like kind of imploding, so I don't know.
I deleted Twitter
Hello.
back when a certain somebody bought it, so and
Yes.
I am
Yeah.
thankful for that.
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Solana. Mute. Apparently, it's letting me know that I can put people in timeouts. Like, that's so funny. Okay.
I don't think I'm going to say anything controversial or something where you need to put me in timeout,
You better
but
not, Kier. I have power now. That is so funny. It's a new
uh,
feature, apparently. Okay, I'm gonna just say on Instagram.
yes,
Oh,
I haven't ever taken my Christmas tree down because I live in a small apartment and there is more storage and it's pretty. So I often turn it off because the bottom is starting to burn out because it's been on for so long. But it is
yeah.
very fun.
I
It's
love
like
it though. It looks
Christmassy.
beautiful. Okay, let me see if I can do. I was like tempted. I was like, I don't feel like doing like a thumbnail on Instagram, but I was like, I could just use like a picture of my kitty, be like, come hang out with us. But I was like, then that might make people think there's gonna be cute pet cameos, and I don't think there will be. So
That's how you get to
best
people.
best not to lie. Um, okay, this is taking me so long. Sorry.
It's okay.
While I fiddle with this, Kier, would you like to do just like a super quick and breezy intro? I have already linked her. Hello, Kelly.
Yes. Um, I'm Kier from Kier the Scrivener, and I read books. Uh, that's most of it. I read a lot of classics. I used to read a lot of fantasy, and I still consider that my first love, even though I don't read as much. Um, Tonight I'm going to be reading Margaret Atwood's The Edible Woman, which I'm really excited for because I have a bad habit of picking up books and like reading a little bit of them and then putting them down and not reading them for a long time. But I started reading this just after I found it at a thrift store and I really, really like it. So I'm really thankful for this because I'm actually going to read it hopefully and like get a fair bit in so that I won't just set it down and not pick it up for a
Yeah,
year or two. That's my
yeah.
worst trait.
Your toxic book trait, yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. Like, I have developed this like bad reading habit that I never used to have a problem with, where it's like when I'm trying to figure out like what I'm in the mood to read, I'll
Yeah.
just like keep trying stuff, and what almost always happens is that I like read a few chapters and then I'm like, oh, this is not really what I'm feeling. But then like
Yeah.
it feels like I've started it,
Yeah.
but also it doesn't feel enough like I started it for me to keep reading it. So it's just like it's not good. I
And then
need to
sometimes
not do that.
you feel like you shouldn't restart because it almost feels like you've already like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I do that a lot. Like I very rarely like reread books when like a new book in a series comes out, but also I refuse to like go back and reread something. Even if like I read it like 2 years ago, unless I
Yeah.
really, really need to, I will not go back. Like
Yeah.
nuts.
I've had that with White Sargasso Sea because I started it and loved it, and then I sat it down and like started reading it again like 2 times. But now I just kind of feel annoyed because I don't want to reread it, but I also don't remember like a lot of the details at the beginning. And I know that
Which
I've
one
been
is it?
into White Sargasso Sea, Jean Reese. It's the like retelling of
Oh,
Jane Eyre.
yes.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like I want to have read that book. It's been so long.
Yeah. Yeah. I I had like plans that it's like, okay, so if I just like gather the books that I have that I like have a bookmark in because I technically started them but not really. And if I just do like one a month, that I like pay attention to and finish. I was like that's very doable, and I haven't done that. Like I just I don't want to. It's yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm cheating or something if I have like started something physically and then I turn to audio, even though I read a lot more audio than I read physically. So there's
Mhm.
so many physical books that I'm like, I have the audiobook versions of them. I could just read it that way, but I'm like, no, I shall not. Like, I shall just continue on.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing a lot more audio than I usually do recently
Yeah.
because I there's like a couple computer games I've been playing that are really perfect for audio because it's like one of them's like a solitaire game, like but
Yeah.
a little bit extra, and so like it's the perfect amount of like I'm doing something, so it helps focus me to listen, which I struggle with, but it's not like distracting, so it's been really great. I read books. You're speaking the truth.
Right? That's all you really need to know.
I know. I mean, it's not a lie. It is true. You do read books.
I don't really read a specific genre, so it doesn't like all ages,
Yeah.
all genres, so it doesn't really have anything else.
Yeah. Hello, Krista. Popping in to say hi, heading to bed in a bit. Yes, I know
Enjoy
it
bed and
is.
rest. Be a proper human who sleeps.
I know. Yeah, it was funny, like, when me and Kier were talking about doing some, like, kind of, chill late night reading sprints. We were like, neither of us has a functioning sleep schedule, so this is truly a match made in heaven. Like,
Yeah, if I get a Voxer from you something and it's not like at middle of the night, then I'm like, what is this going on?
yep. Yep. Samantha says, I just started trying audio this month. I color to keep my concentration. I have done that too. I think that is also like that has also been a really good listening activity for me because it's focused, but it's not like word related.
Yeah, I've been sewing a lot this month, so I feel like that's
Yeah.
nice to just do something and like, yeah.
Yeah. I also do a lot of knitting when I listen. Um, this is just like essentially a square that I'm working on right now
It's so
because
pretty, the colors.
thank you. It's gonna be this is funny. It's basically going to be like a cat blankie because
Okay.
one of my cats, Lego, he he loves like kneading things, like he
Yeah.
loves like soft things and texture and all of that, and he likes to hang out with me while I'm knitting, and so what happens is he does that on the things I'm knitting. So like it
Yeah.
snags and it's not great. Um and I don't want to like make him feel like he can't, sit with me while I'm knitting
Yeah.
because that would be mean. So basically, I'm making his own like decoy blankie for him.
You're like, here, have this.
Yeah, but I think it might work. We'll see. I hope so
Yeah.
because like I'm not even done with it and he's already been laying on it. So
You can
it
just
should
put
be
it
good.
over your hand as you knit or something. Be like,
Yeah, like a gauntlet like yeah.
protect the cat and the knitting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So where's my phone? So I'm gonna be probably reading I'm probably going to do an audiobook while I play one of my computer games
Nice.
when we get to our sprinting. I only just started. Let me actually pull up the cover here. I just started. That's very hard to see.
Can't see
Good
it.
Neighbors by
Okay.
Stephanie Burgess. It's like kind of a spooky-ish, but like not too creepy, kind of like paranormal kind of romance thing.
Nice.
I am interested to see how it goes because Stephanie Burgess is an author who like I keep trying to love.
Yeah.
um, and it just doesn't have like there's been one of her books that I have really really enjoyed. And then the other ones have been kind of middling or like I didn't care for them. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I don't know, this one I think is going to be a good audio one because I like the narrator. It's nice to kind of have not on the background like I'm not paying attention, but like it's
Yeah.
not one that I'm like so excited about if that makes
Yeah. Sometimes
sense.
audio, like, yeah, if you don't like the book, reading an audio can help sometimes.
Yes, yes. Although it's funny, so the Hoopla app, you know, it'll like show you like ratings or reviews from people if people review, which they often don't. This one only has 1 star rating and it's 2 stars. So I'm like, oh no.
What did you
We'll
not like
see.
about her other book? There was just like,
So one of the things that like is a recurring thing I notice in her books, like because I've read quite a few now. How many have I read? Like at least I think at least 5 or 6.
oh wow,
Um,
what? Are they short?
and a lot of them are, yeah. And something that I find very frustrating about her books is that like consistently none of the women in her books are friends with other women, which I hate. Like the only like I just read a short story collection from her, which I was pretty underwhelmed by. There were like a handful of stories I liked, but for the most part, I didn't have a great time. And I swear, like I find it so weird that like out of that entire collection, all these different stories, all these different main characters, absolutely none of them had a friend who was a woman. Like there were a couple
Well,
who
other women
had,
are competition. Don't you know this?
I
You don't have to
guess, I
be friends.
guess,
Like they're just jerks or whatever.
like in the stories I read from her, like the only time women can like get along with each other is if they're like romantically involved or if they're related, which those relationships are important as well. But like I just find it very odd that out of all of these stories, like I don't know, I'm like Stephanie Burgess, like do you like who hurt you? What happened?
Yeah, and I think like the majority of us will have like yes, either or like family members or like romance or whatever. But you're most likely to have more female friends than you are to have like romantic partners or siblings. Like that's just
Right.
more common.
Yeah, like it's very strange. So that's one of the things that like I consistently don't like about her books. Um like that and kind of tangentially related like the not like other girls thing she does a lot. Um so we'll see. I don't know, but Hannah was just talking to me about she read or she's halfway through her like Scales and Sensibility, which is like Jane Austen plus dragons basically, and she
Oh,
said that this has been her favorite of her books so far because
okay.
like Hannah also has like we've discussed we all find it very frustrating that um like the mean girl trope and how often that's used. So that gives me hope that I will like some of her stuff. I just this one is like too early to tell because I only just started the audio, but
Yeah.
we shall see.
Did she write other like Jane Austen retellings? Is she the one with the
She
other ones?
she does I don't think she's done other like official Jane Austen
Okay.
retellings, like but she has done like other Regency fantasy.
Okay.
Like actually the first thing I read from her, I read like 2 or 3 books. I might have read the whole trilogy actually, in her series that was a middle grade Regency fantasy, and it was like a girl and like her 2 sisters. Like there were so many things about it that like I should have loved,
Yeah.
and I just didn't. Like I was very underwhelmed by it. But the book that I did really enjoy from her was I think I just read it this year. It's like the first in her like dragon series, like Dragon with a Chocolate
I
Heart,
love
which is
dragons.
also a middle grade fantasy, and it's about this like this dragon girl. Like she starts out as a dragon and then she gets like cursed and she gets turned into a human,
Oh.
and so she has to like go to this town and try to figure out like what to do as she waits for her family to find her, and she ends up discovering chocolate and that she loves chocolate because like dragons don't eat chocolate. So she's
Is
like
it like
this is
dogs?
the
Will they die?
best. She's like this is the best thing in my entire life. Like
Yep.
so it's really sweet, and that one I think has more friendship
Yeah.
type things, which is nice too.
I think especially if
Um,
you're writing middle grade, like friendship is normally like one of the key things in there.
yeah, and it's especially when it's middle grade as well. It's like I hate when
Yeah.
the like not like other girls and all of that. Like when it comes up in middle grade, I think it's especially upsetting because it's like we are teaching girls from so
Yeah.
young that like they
Yeah.
shouldn't that they don't like each other, that they shouldn't get along, which I hate. 50% through Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I'm loving it.
Nice.
Kelly said her husband is out of town. I can never go to sleep early when he's gone, so this is a perfect night for sprints.
Nice.
Yay! I'm so glad. Um, that we can like keep y'all company. And I called this like late night reading sprints, but like obviously depending on your time zone, this might be like a very reasonable time to
Yeah,
have
even
reading
7:30
sprints.
is not particularly late.
Right, for me it's like not that late, and I know like if you're in Australia, I think it's like Saturday afternoon. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Um,
They're 12 hours, so it would be morning, I think.
okay, morning. There we go.
12 hours for me. Sorry, different place, but yeah.
Okay,
I had friends who were there just recently.
yeah. Um, so do we wanna do our
Right.
first sprint? Let us feel free to let us know in the comments if you guys are going to be reading something or working on something or just hanging out. Um, I should also make progress on video things, so theoretically during some of our sprints I'll be doing that, but like who knows? We'll see. Um, what are we thinking for our first sprint length?
If we do 15, we'll go to the end of the hour, but we could also do a longer one to begin.
Okay. Nearly 4 a.m. in London, but you can't sleep. I am so sorry. You have my sympathies. Uh,
Yeah, I did
yeah.
say that we probably wouldn't have British people, but look, we do.
Yeah, insomnia is the worst. Okay, so how about trying to think? Do we want to do like a really short, like 15 minutes start out, or maybe like half an hour? That's also kind of short. What are y'all thinking in the comments? Let's see. I think let's go ahead and do half an hour and we'll see how that feels. We're gonna sprint until the 15-minute mark, whatever that is for you, and we are gonna mute our mics and see you guys in a bit.
Luck reading. Hello.
How did our first sprint go for everyone?
Mine went really well. I'm really, really loving this
I
book.
think you're muted still, Kier.
Mhm. Hello?
No. Oh, wait. Okay, maybe it was my computer. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, so we're good. Sorry.
Okay, I was like, you were really quiet. Oh, no, I was like, I muted myself. Hello. Mine went really well. I'm really like, it's one of those books you have to read slowly because like you really, really like the writing. And I just, she was describing heat at one point, and then she talked about like the fact that she pretty much just has like a plastic bag around her body because of like the humidity of the heat. And you're like, yeah. And just like, I don't know, cool things where she's talking about working in the office and she's like, the air conditioner is dead, which means, that the fan is broken. And we all know that there's not actually helping by the fan, but the fan being dead just reminds us that we're all just here stuck.
Yep.
And I don't know, it's a lot about heat because it's a hot day, but it has
Yeah.
like this idea that like, and there's so much food because I actually don't know the plot. It's called The Edible Woman, but I know that I think she's gonna get married, and the idea that like women are like consumable for men, and it's like from like 1969. So I have no idea what's exactly happening. Otherwise, there just happens to be food all the places, and like I don't know. I have no idea what's happening, but it's all like slightly off.
Yeah. Interesting. An interesting title, too.
Yeah.
So I got to. It's not showing me. Hold on. Okay, I am apparently 12% done
Mm.
with Good Neighbors, which is only like an hour in, but it's it's whatever. Like, she's it's. I will be surprised if we meet a woman in this book, like besides the main
Um,
character, um, who is likable in any way. I mean, we haven't met. Like, it is just the very beginning of the story, so she's just had like the only person she really knows is the love interest, who's a man, um, and like her father, who she lives with. So it's still early in the plot, but like the way that I don't know, like the thing about Stephanie Burgess's books, at least like a lot of the ones I've read, it's like sometimes she uses tropes or she does things where it's like this is not like irritating by itself, but like
yeah.
seeing it over and over and seeing it in context with other things just leaves me with a really bad taste in my mouth. Like, so she's like interacting with the love interest, who like we've already been told like 40 times about how good looking he is, and I'm like, okay, I understand, like that's fine,
How's
that's not a
his
bad thing,
jaw
but
and his back and his eyes? Are they all excellent?
they are we are told over and over. So like that's okay, fine, whatever. But then like he's like so gorgeous and she keeps like harping on it and she's like, I am just a plain ordinary woman who likes to do inventions with my short hair. No man could ever want me. And I'm like, calm down, ma'am. Like I just
Yeah.
and like some of the things that like she says or that she's like, I'm not like other people, I don't like socializing, I think window boxes are stupid. But she like uses them to like disguise that like she's an inventor who does like kind of
Mm.
not like bad things, but like people think that she's doing
Yeah.
bad things with her inventions, and like
Most
some
people
of
like
it
flowers, but I put metal in them. That
right.
makes me cool.
There's like daggers planted in her flower box. No. um and it's just stuff where it's like I also don't love going to social situations, but the way that she says it just gets on my nerves, and I know that's probably unfair, but it's just
No.
all it's in a very like not like other girls way, and like the whole inventing thing and how like she's like, I've always had to like hide myself, but now there's somebody who I don't have to pretend around, and it's like when other characters do this, I am much more sympathetic. Like it feels much more genuine. But like maybe because I've read other books by this author, I am just instantly tuned in to like these things that to me just suggest that like she has some unresolved internalized misogyny here. Like I just So
Yeah.
it's
Are some of these like
not
a
my
little
favorite.
further backdated if she has so many books?
What's that?
Are some of them like a little further backdated?
So this one is actually one of her newer ones, I think. Um, I'm trying to think based on the other things that I've read. The short story collection is, I think, like her newest almost.
Yeah.
So
So she's not improving. Because sometimes you like read authors and they like started like 2012 or whatever, or like earlier where that was like the height of popularity, and then you see
right,
them
right.
learn and grow. But yeah,
Yeah, and I mean the one that I have really enjoyed from her, I think I should look up when that was published, but yeah, it just like I still like I own this book, so I was like, even when I had read other things by her and I was like, maybe she's not gonna be for me, I still at least wanted to try it.
yeah.
Um okay, yeah, so the Chocolate Heart series with the dragon
Mhm.
is, it looks like, from like 2017.
Okay.
And then I think the third book probably like 2019 or 2020. So like fairly new
Yeah.
ish. So I guess there is hope. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just real annoying. Like I honestly I should like count how
Yeah.
many times like specific like descriptions or specific like tropes come up, because like I am so tired of hearing about this man already, and like we barely we barely know him, and he's not unlikable, like he's fine, and I don't even like actively dislike the main character, but I just like it's
It grates
just,
on you.
yes, exactly, it's just a lot. um 30% through the audio for Lone Women by Victor Lavelle. I'm going to be reading that one this month too, I think. For
It's one that
Bethany's
I had on my
book club.
TBR, and then I got salty because I found out that it was written by a man, which not that you can. But I was like, this looks awesome. Like the cover is so pretty. And then I saw Victor and I was like, no, Victor's a dude. And I was just like, no. So I hope it is a good book because I can get over that. That was
Yeah.
just mad.
Kier picking up a book.
About like
Ooh.
what
Oh,
women are
ew.
going through. I'm sure men can write about it, but I was just like, no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's also like, I think sometimes it can be like expectation too, you know, because
It,
like it's not necessarily, like you said, it's not that like men can't write books like about women,
yeah,
um that they can't do a good job, because there are authors who do, but it's like sometimes when you're picturing something as a certain thing and
yeah.
then it's not that, you're like, oh, even if it's not like uh
Yeah.
automatically a bad thing.
So I'd love to know how it is because I can get over that and I think I'd be
Yeah,
into it. I was just, yeah, salty for
yeah,
not really a real reason.
it happens, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, about girl hate. I read Silas Marner and like I knew that like have you read it?
No.
Yeah. I don't know why I was like George Eliot. Like I just feel like I have to try her and I was like, this is her shortest book. And it's just it was a mess. But like one of the things, spoiler, I don't know, it's mostly just it happens 3/4 into the novel and yet it's in the description of it because it's a short novel. But
Okay.
there's a scene in which this like royal dude or squire's son wants to marry this pretty young woman, but he has an old wife that he secretly married, kind of like Anna Cole.
Classic.
Yeah, yeah, from like I think of The Great Convent, like I think of that story exactly.
Yeah.
But the issue is that his old wife has a child, and she's like aware that he's like trying to seduce this young woman at a ball, and she comes like running with her child because she lives in a workhouse, like terrible, like in rags, can't like pay for anything. And
Yeah.
there's this scene where it's like she in her mind wants to blame her husband's neglect for this reason, even though he's living in a freaking castle. But she really knows it's just the opium in her like brain. And it's like it's very clearly established that she had no struggle with addiction before their marriage. So you're like, maybe the
Yeah.
fact that he did, like all of the framing, and even like I was looking at reviews and everyone's like, yes, in her revenge, she came, and I was like, it's not vengeance to try to make sure that your husband doesn't try to seduce a younger woman when you're living in a workhouse with his child that
Yeah,
you're
that's,
legally married to him. Like it's not even like even if she wasn't legally married, it would still be, but she's legally married to him.
yeah.
And I was like,
I would actually call that like kind of the opposite of revenge because she's like helping another woman who's gonna be in a similar position.
And then she
Wow.
dies, so he's free to marry the other woman.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then Silas Marner takes in this baby, um, and raises her, and then like 16 years later, it jumps in, and the squire tries to take her back, and she's like, actually, no, like Silas is my father, like he's raised me for the last 16 years, and it's kind of like a, oh no, you should have taken on like a parental role, but only after. Like it's not like he should have taken a parental role like in her first 2 years.
Right. He shouldn't have stayed with his wife. He should have like rescued the
Yes,
child
after
eventually.
his
Like,
wife died, then he should have taken proper like thing, and he's
yeah.
sad now because
Wow.
he doesn't love him. But there's no context that he should have like supported his wife rather than having her in a workhouse because she,
Yeah.
became
Yeah.
addicted. And I'm just like, what? Like how? Anyways, and then the rest of the female characters like pretty much don't exist. Like his new wife
Yeah.
is stupid. She doesn't have an education, but she's pretty, so that's what matters. It literally
Yeah.
talks about how dumb she is, like repeatedly, and then there's like this old woman who's like a nice enough character, but as the only other woman, she's like, I'll come and like knit, like make food for you and watch the child so you can be a good father to her, Silas. And he's like, as long as you don't like, she doesn't love you more than she loves me.
Oh my god.
And I was like, George Eliot, you are a woman, like right, like can you not like write? Anyways,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Um
So I was angry.
there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah, I've seen quotes from George Eliot's books and like there are things about them that I think I would enjoy, but I've never really wanted to read George Eliot stuff, and so this is just like confirming that for me. Um
Yeah, it was brutal. So I'd read her essay like silly lady novelist writing silly novels or whatever, and it's like kind of making fun of sentimentalism, and part of it is kind of funny and satirical, and then by the end you realize that she's actually not just like kind of making fun of the dramaticness, she's actually like making fun of women and about how like she's gonna write, because like that's the thing, is she published this before she published her first book because she's like, I want to be a man so that like I'm not in this women kind of thing. And some of her
yeah.
critiques are funny because she's like, yes, this child who's 2 years old who can speak Greek. And I'm like, yeah, like that's absurd. But anyways, I was just like, you're not on other women's team, are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I'm breaking up with her, and it's only being an essay in a book.
Like I can already see this relationship is not going to work out. So
No, it's not.
yeah, actually, so the stories, so our past at classics picks for the month, we're reading two very short stories by George MacDonald,
Yes.
who I love. I love that man, and I feel like I'm very biased, but I feel like he is one of the Victorian writers where I'm like, George like knew some things. Like he was.
Yeah.
I mean, there are like for sure things like in the Light Princess, there's like this random like side character who is I think supposed to be from an Asian country, and the way his dialogue is written is like so offensive. Like it's bad. It's easy to skip that part, but like there's no
Yeah.
reason that had to be there. So like he doesn't get everything right, but I like the things that I've read from him so far, or like even things that I've read like about him, about his life and like the letters he wrote and everything.
Yeah.
I just am like so pleasantly surprised. Like, Fantastes is like one of his best known stories, which I read earlier in the year and was like one of those experiences where I'm like, this is like beautiful and one of the most profound things I've read, and I have no idea how to talk about it. So that's
Yes.
fun. It was a great time, but like there's just this like kind of side plot almost that I won't get into like details, but like one of the things that happens in it is this young man like falls in love with this beautiful young woman who he's never spoken to, of course. He's only like
Okay.
seen her like through this like magic mirror or something, and he's like obsessed with her. Like he is so obsessed and like in love with her. He thinks they're like destined for each other and all of this. Never spoken to her ever. But he just knows that they're
Without words. It's awesome.
yes, that they're meant to be together. And so like finally they do end up actually like meeting and speaking, and he, because of like something about the way the mirror works, I forget how, but like he basically has like some kind of power over her and like can
Oh.
like command her to like come and talk to him or like whatever, something like that. And he's been like obsessed with her for years, and so he he like is so excited that he finally can talk to her and that he sees her, and he says something like, well, do you love me too? Like, you have to love me too. Like, of course you do, right? And she says to him, like, I'm not free, so I can't love you. Like, love has to be like, choice,
Yeah.
like freely given. And like, there's just, it's such a like short passing comment, but I'm like, wow, like George MacDonald understood more about consent than like some modern writers I have read. Like, it's
Yeah.
just
That's
it was just like
beautiful.
very impressive to me. I'm like, good for you, sir. Um, and it like wasn't even the main story. It was like a story that the main
Mhm.
character I think was reading
Yeah,
about.
it could have easily been passed over, but it was
Yeah,
still there, and those things matter sometimes more.
yeah. Like it was really something. Um, so it's like clearly there were even authors like back then who were like kind of like they knew things,
Yeah.
they knew things weren't right, So,
Yeah, like
um,
it's not that hard to understand power imbalances and things like that, or like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah. And like I also cuz I had read a couple of things like a long time ago. I read The Princess and the Goblin, which is like his one of his most famous. And as a kid, which is like the intended audience, I hated it. I did not like it at all. And then I reread it as an adult recently, and I'm like, I think the big reason is that I did not understand like satire, because this is hilarious. There's so much like humor in it, so I
yeah.
enjoyed it a lot more then. And then I like read a lot about George MacDonald because I was reading another book and it was talking about like his life and like
Mhm.
his family and everything, and like I just like everything I learned about him, I'm like, what a good man. Like,
Yeah.
um he just like, so unfortunately he and his wife lost, I think, maybe like two children, very young, and that's obviously like a lot for anybody to go through. And so he had like a lot of experience with grief, and so whenever friends of his would lose somebody, he would always write these like really like profound and like
Mhm.
wonderful like letters kind of like condolence, and he would always like send them late, so like not right when it happened.
Yeah.
He would send them like a month later, because he said, he's like, I know from experience that after everybody kind of leaves and everyone is like moving on, that's like the hardest time. And I'm just like sitting here like, and like some of the poetry that he wrote about like being able to see his daughter again after he died, like it just was like so
Wow.
beautiful. Also, he just seems like a very cool person. Like he and his wife would have, and like their family, because they had a lot of kids, they had like this sort of like unofficial like family theater group, sort of like they would like put on plays at their house, and they would like invite all their friends and all these people, and it was like one of the only places where like they invited like working class people and like the nobility, like they had friends from like all over, which is like,
Yeah.
in Victorian times that was not a thing a lot of
Yeah.
people did. So anyway, this is my George MacDonald tangent, but I
I
love
love it.
him. And I think he's a great example of like, even, yeah, it's like when you read
Mhm.
classics that are just like so like
Yeah.
misogynistic, or there's like so many things that are like, problematic in them. It's like, this is not the only option. There's
Yeah. It's like, yeah, there was less conversation about it in general, but it's not like, yeah, people were still humans and like understood some things and should have, like,
yeah,
we can still hold them to that standard of being like, okay, this isn't great, but like,
yeah,
you know, yeah.
exactly. It's like the like for like the founding fathers of the US, it's like, well, they were like of their time, and it's like, okay, but other people knew that slavery was wrong. Like the
Yeah.
people that were enslaved and like abolitionists and everything, like there were people who knew. Like it's not like, oh, they didn't know any better. Like some people did. So if these people didn't, that's a choice.
It's also
So
like not that hard, like to imagine yourself like literally if I think back to like even like, the golden rule of like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's
mhm,
not like a
mhm.
new understanding that you're like, if I was that person, would I want to be treated that way? Like that's not like a novel idea of like, and obviously sometimes like empathy has to go further than that, like injustice stuff. But like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
just being
But
like,
yeah, like
maybe I wouldn't like this, so I shouldn't treat someone else like that. It's not
yeah.
like a novel idea. Like,
Yeah. Like the basic concept is like, this is something you learn in kindergarten. Like,
yeah, literally
yeah.
one of like the most well-known quotes, and yet somehow people are like, but those people wanted to be enslaved, and you're like, yeah, no, that was never a logical conclusion to look at the situation and think that that was the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like, and I understand for like historical purposes why it's useful to talk about like certain periods as being like a movement being
Yeah,
especially like prominent. Like I get that, but it frustrates me when like that turns into like, oh, nobody knew about this or cared about this
yeah,
until then. Like women's suffrage movements in like various countries. It's
yeah,
not like all of a sudden women woke up one day and they're like, hold on, I think I'm a person. Like
yeah,
maybe I'm a person. Like that's not how it happened. Like it definitely wasn't as like socially acceptable to like talk about certain things or to like do certain
yeah,
things. So like there is still like the context of like a time period does still matter,
yeah.
but it's not like it's only recently that people have noticed that these things are like wrong. So
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, what like kind of like societal lies or like whatever, where like people are like, if we treat women not as people, like that's better for us and stuff like that, or like things like that, where like people kind of buy into it. The thing that I'm still salty about is that when I was in high school, I had to write a history essay, and one of my prompts was like, this person's a great man, and I chose Julius Caesar, and I wrote about all of the ways that led to his defeat, and he literally got assassinated. So like arguing that like his choices led to his defeat is terrible. And like one of them is just that he wanted to like kind of get behind everyone's like skin and stuff, so he slept with every single wife of all of his Senate. And it's just like things like that. And like I was like, these are things that he thought would make him powerful, but really were just like ways that people wanted to assassinate him more. And
right.
my teacher, like, yeah, it's just like, yes, a morality of like people slept around. Sure, people still sleep around, but it's like the idea of like, maybe he knew that this made him feel powerful because he could have any woman, but maybe that also ticked off a lot of people who were like, I don't like his politics. People don't like his politics. Yeah, remember that time that he flaunted sleeping with my wife?
Yeah.
Like maybe that's an extra reason to why they wanted to kill him. And like things
Yeah.
like that, or the ways in which he like starved out a bunch of children and killed them in France. And people were like, they didn't give him victory parade after that because they were like, we don't like the fact that he killed a bunch of children. Um, and my teacher was like, how dare you judge them on the morality of today? I was like, no, these are literally things that like people said at the time. Like they didn't give him a victory banquet because of that. Like they didn't, they
Yeah.
said I'm mad about this and stuff. But like yeah, anyways, I was so mad because she gave me like a 70 or something. She's like, you wrote it well, but like your morality got into it. And I was like,
That's so
the guy got
frustrating.
assassinated. It's not like it's argumentative to say that like things led to his defeat.
Right, that he made that perhaps some choices were not the best. Like for
Yeah.
yeah, that is really frustrating because like when people act like it's only bias if it
Yeah.
is in a certain direction, it's like everybody like if you're a historian, like you do have feelings about what you're reading. It's like pretending that you don't. I don't think is helpful, and I actually think it's kind of like dishonest because like
Yeah.
you're acting like you're neutral when actually you are making a choice by saying that we should not have issues with this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And also to
like
look at the people's morality and thoughts at the time too.
yeah, like the fact that it's like no people, even people like thousands of years ago, are like maybe don't starve children. Like
Yeah.
maybe that's bad. I don't know. Hot take.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like I actually from the same book that I was like, reading about George MacDonald, it was talking about like during like the Black Death and how much that like radically changed
Yeah.
society, obviously. And it was talking about how like there's this modern kind of like assumption or habit of us thinking from like the 21st century. It's like, okay, well, yes, that was terrible, but like people like infant mortality was so high back then that it wouldn't have felt like the same as like a person today, like losing their
Yeah.
child or something. And it's like we have like firsthand sources. Like I
Mhm.
remember it's quoted in like a science fiction book that I read recently too.
Yeah.
Like we have sources where it's like I think he was in Italy, I don't remember. And he's talking about how he just had to bury his wife and all of his children by himself in one grave, and like the like devastation and the grief in the way that he's writing this. It's like, how can you say that, like, oh, people just didn't like, people didn't
Yeah.
mind as much back then. They were uneducated, peasant people, did not
Yeah.
understand grief. Like, it just doesn't
Yeah, it's one
make
of those
any
things where
sense.
people become like they're not intelligent, they're all like emotion, and yet they also have no emotion. It's like one of those weird things.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like you
It's
do
like,
get like numb to some things. Like I have a friend who just through like a weird thing had like 8 family members die in a year. And like a lot of them were older, but it was like cancer and just like all of these things. And it's
yeah.
just like it's one of the like huge things because she's like, I can't recover from this. And like I can't imagine that that's like a reality from people like every day in the Middle Ages. And like that doesn't become less bad because it's AIDS or because it's whatever. It's still like
Yeah.
just
Or
tragedy upon tragedy.
it's like how in like previous centuries, it's like families wouldn't name their children right away because so many of them died. It's like that is like an attempt to kind of like not
Mhm.
get, I guess, like emotionally attached to like this kid in
Yeah.
case something terrible happens. So like it does, like you were saying with your friend, it's like it can contribute to like a feeling of like numbness, but that doesn't mean that underneath that you don't care.
Yeah. You're just kind of protecting yourself, but you're
Yeah,
not, you still have all those feelings still like digging into you.
yeah, yeah. Now that I've gotten us completely off topic, I love doing this.
Oh,
I'm
very nice.
sorry that I just like
No, I
went
love
off
it.
in the weeds there. Do we want to do another sprint? Since
Yeah, that
theoretically
sounds good.
that's what we're here for. um, let's see. We could go to 15 again.
Yeah, that
Um, let's do
was
that.
some good reading done.
Yeah. Um, and let us know in the comments if you guys are reading something or doing something exciting. Uh, Lone Women just took a turn I was not expecting, so I'm intrigued to see where it goes. Yeah, that's one of those books, like, when I hear people review it, they're like, here's the setup, I can't tell you literally anything else or it gives stuff away, but it's good.
Yeah,
And I'm like, okay, intriguing.
we like that.
Yeah. Okay, I will talk to you guys in like half an hour. Welcome back. I see Margaret joined us. Hello.
Wonderful to see you.
How is the sprint for everybody? I am almost a quarter through the book, so
Does
that
it feel
feels
like
good.
sweet release, or is it getting better?
So she has met another woman, which is nice. They're getting along, also great. She's like way older though, so which is like again not
That's allowed.
bad, but it's just I have noticed for some reason, especially in romance, I have noticed there's like a very particular kind of like not like other girls where it's like you are allowed to have female friends, but they have to be like not competition for you. So like
Yeah.
she's like 60 and you're like the young beautiful 20 something. That is acceptable, but no more.
Yeah, or they have to be gay, or they have to be like some way out of the system so that they can't be like the same.
Yeah, it's weird. So yes and no, it's gotten better, but
At least she has elderly wisdom.
well, and she is like a cool character. Like I like her, but she's like making like such a big deal about like how like special and cool the main girl is, and it's just like annoying. Yeah. Took a break and played some Dreamlight Valley. Nice.
Is that a game? I'm assuming. I'm bad at
Yes, yeah. I have
wonderful.
not played that one, but I know it's a popular one right now. Is that the one? Okay, wait, I have to look up.
It sounds very whimsical.
Yes, and I think okay, it is the Disney one. I am excited to play that one, but I refuse to pay for it, so I'm gonna wait until it's released for the wider world. So yeah, but I do think it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah. I read, I think, like 3 pages, and then I had, oh no, like 4. But then I had some thoughts. So it made me think about stuff, and I ended up journaling some. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Of just like reflection. This is what I'm saying. Like I have dyslexia, so I read slow, but I also annotate a lot, and then I like have thoughts, and then I like write down things. So it's not even so much like this is why it takes me so long to finish physically books, because if I'm like listening to an audiobook, I can just pause it, or sometimes I'll like write down my thoughts while listening or something, but I just get halted so easily.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Actually, yawning at a somewhat reasonable
I'm gonna yawn now too. It's contagious.
Sorry, I know. Yeah, I actually like. I feel like my reading has been very like up and down this year. Like some weeks or months I'm like reading all the things.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what is a book?
That has been very much me too. Like there was a few months where I only read like 3 books, or I read like 5 books in 1 week and I didn't read any books for 3 weeks. And then September I read like 16 books or something, which was just very surprising because I've been reading like 5 books a month all of summer. I made like 7 goals to like things that I wanted to accomplish each like kind of types of book, and I was like, how? I mean, reading 3.
Yeah.
Like these were bad goals, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll actually like, beat some of them because I read 18 books.
Yeah, I feel so bad because I still can do it. Like it just depends on like if I can actually pick up things that I'm supposed to. But I was like looking at my list of like, friends picking books for me to read, and I'm like, I am so far behind. Like
I chose a picture book for you, right?
Yes, and I loved it. I read that one
a
couple months ago, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's gone up in a wrap up yet, so it's like understandable
Yeah.
if you don't remember. Um, but yes, I thought that was fantastic, and I've like been really enjoying the ones that I have read from that list, and of
Yeah.
course I'm excited to read the other ones. I just like all of a sudden it's
12
October
and
and
12
I'm
is
like,
hard though.
yeah, it's
Like I don't think I would accomplish that. Like whenever I put in goals, like I read a lot of books, but I just don't read like whatever books I plan to read at the beginning of the year. Like this never happens.
yeah. Yeah, and I think this is like a good reminder that I don't think I don't feel like I thrive on like year-long challenges.
Yeah.
Like if it's very short term, it's like a month or a couple weeks for a readathon, great. If it's like very long term where it's like who knows when I will get these done, that's also okay. But if it's like a year, even though I should have like plenty of time to plan, I just like never seem to get it together.
I even struggle with like monthly TBRs because like I will if I make my TBR like a few days before, I guarantee by like the second week I will have had different thoughts about the books I'm going to read.
Yes.
Because I'm like I read one book and then I'm like I want to read another book like that and I just kind of go down that and then like I'm suddenly not at all in the mood for whatever I planned on reading because I
Yeah.
went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Um I'm like looking at the list right now and it's like I've read 4 of the 12. And I know I'm going to be
9 months.
reading yeah, it's like it's a third, you know.
You
Um,
are a very like fast reader though if you're in the mood for them.
right, yeah, if I that's the thing is like if I was in the very specific reading moods for these, I don't think it would take me very long. And like I know that um one of them for sure I'm going to be reading because Hannah and I are going to be discussing that. I know that I'm hopefully going to get to another one of them for like our middle grade readathon. Which we should plug that, you guys. Like if you're,
Yes.
Kier and I are a couple of the hosts for middle grade magic, so that was going to be happening near the end of the month. But so like
Yeah.
there are a few on the list where it's like I have either concrete plans to read them with somebody or like I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen for some reason, so like it's doable. I just know myself and I'm like I don't like being told what to read even when I'm the one telling me what to read. It's like I used up all of that willpower in school when I was reading
Hmm.
all of the assigned books and now I'm like no.
Yeah. I did not.
Yes,
Especially.
Kelly is one of the other hosts.
Yes, we are
So
well represented in this chat.
yes, we are. What were you saying, Kier?
Oh, I in college, I especially like I had to read tons of nonfiction because I did counseling and theology and like full
Yeah.
chunky books. I can admit that I read maybe 3 to 4 of them cover to cover. Like I would like read sections, I would use the parts for the reading and stuff. Maybe some of my like psychology textbooks, like I had to write modules and all that stuff. But like there was not many of them that I didn't do English. If I had done English or something like that, I probably would have read some of them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have 5 like massive books to read that I'm gonna read what I need for the papers.
Yeah. Kelly says, I need to stop making TBRs probably because I also don't like to read what I assign myself. The thing is, though, like, TBRs are so fun.
Yeah,
Like,
right. When people are like, it has to be like a pile of possibilities or whatever, I'm like, my TBR was never that. That is what my TBR is. Like, my TBR is
yeah.
never going to be like, these are definitely going to be the books
Yeah.
I'm reading.
Like, when I do my, like, TBR game, which is, like, a very fancy way of saying, like, I come up with prompts that fit
Yeah,
cards, and I have a good time. But it's like,
yeah,
is it really a TBR game? I'm like, there's no consequences if I don't read these. Like, it is,
yeah.
like, so like non-pressured, which is probably why I almost never read a significant chunk of those books, but like I have fun doing it. I don't
See,
know.
I
Choosing
consider doing
TBRs.
those, but I'm just like so aware of the fact that I won't do it that it
Yeah.
feels unfaithful, but it feels like it would be so fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
watch you, I watch other people, and I'm like, this would be cool. Or the ones where you have to like, the TBR jar is like, oh, when you have to just like put your hand in and pick a book off your shelf and like, no, that's never going to happen because like if I get a book that I'm not interested in, like or not that I'm interested in my books, like currently interested or
Yeah.
like not in the mood for, you
Yeah.
know.
Or sometimes though it's good for like clarifying thoughts, because sometimes it's like, yeah, I do like a random like book pick or something and I'm like, I don't want to read that, I want to read this other thing, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
now I have a choice. Like I
Yes.
have like a decision I made. um I like to make TBRs because I think planning and getting excited about books is like the whole point. But I can admit now that it's not actual to be read. Yeah, exactly. Like it is so much fun to get excited about
Yeah.
books you want to read. And it's like it doesn't mean that you're only excited if you read them that month, you know?
Yeah.
Um yeah.
And I'm someone who doesn't do hauls regularly. So like it's also nice to talk about the books that I have on my shelves and stuff like that. Cause like I just I
Yeah.
don't talk a lot about, and I very much believe in like life's library, like the idea that like, you know, my books are not, I'm not like worried about my physical TBR. I'm not worried about those things. Like I have lots of books. Other people, like I always have people borrowing my books. I will hopefully, pass it on to my children or read them when I'm 80. Like I'm not worried about that. So like, yeah, I like talking about books to myself.
Yeah. TBR is like a completely separate hobby from reading, and that's
Yeah,
okay. Like they are both about loving and getting excited about books. So
yeah,
that's how I feel on that. Um, it's funny too looking back, because like even just a few years ago, I was really good at sticking to TBRs, and I think
you went
like
right.
I was like so good at it that like I kind of was almost out of practice at just like picking things I was excited about, and so I was like, I want
Yeah,
to work on that, and then like now I have the opposite experience where it's like I only want to read what I want to read,
yeah.
outside of like book clubs and things, obviously, but
I don't think I've ever done one. Like I don't think I've ever done a full TBR. Like I will occasionally look back at the cringiness of my first videos, and some of them I still haven't read, or most of them I read like 3 years later. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I
yeah.
read that book one day. Some of them I'm not interested in reading anymore.
Once upon a time, I was like, I'm gonna read this.
Yeah, I was 20, almost 21 when I started BookTube, and I had like a before 25 list that I did. I'm now 26, but I think I still had only read like half of the book. It was 4.5 years.
I have never ever made one of those lists, and that is because I know I would not do them. I would not want to. It would not be fun for me. Like,
I just
I
enjoy it because it's
just,
a longer period of time. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I will have more time. But like one of them, it's so sad because I have like 3 copies of this now. I was using Les Miserables to I still have not read Les Miserables. That was a book when I said I was like probably like 12 that I would read by like 20, and then by 25,
Yep.
and I didn't have a copy for the longest time, and then I got a pretty copy, and then like 2 people gave me a copy of Les Miserables this year because they were like, you'll love this, and I was like, of
Mm-hmm.
course I will love this. You
Yep.
know me, my musical theater love. So now I have 3 copies of it, and then I was like, I really need to like read Les Miserables now.
It's so intimidating. Like, even as somebody who reads a good amount of classics, and I have read a few very long classics, it's still so intimidating. Like, I have plans to read it with a friend
Yeah.
someday. Someday we're going to get to it. And I also know that I'm going to love it, that I'm going to love a lot of things about it. But, like, it's. I'm
I
just
think I'm just gonna
tired
do
even
it on
thinking about
audio
it.
one day because I
Mm.
don't think that I can, like, I would just, if I spent as much, because I know I will enjoy it, and that I will like, it takes me forever to read like a small book because I stop and I annotate it a million times. Like I think it would take me several years to read.
It's a commitment. It really is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, I think I'm gonna hop off.
That
Um,
no, bad and yawning.
yeah, I know. I keep yawning, and also it is like unbearably hot right here.
Are you getting like a
And
hot spell? Like it was so
yeah,
cold here all summer, and then like 20, but like raining or whatever
yeah,
that
like
is.
we had like a pretty mild summer as well, and now it's like miserable. Like, and this I feel like this always happens where I live. There's always like
Yeah,
a week in like October or November, and sometimes even December, where it's like
yeah,
feels like summer. And
yeah.
also like we don't have air conditioning here because in general, my area I live in, it doesn't get nearly as hot as like other parts of California or like other, places in the world. So like we generally don't need it, but like every once in a while it's rough.
You don't get as much humid stuff, right?
No,
Yeah.
we're very lucky that it's not like humid. It's not like the sticky
Because
heat.
that's how it is, like where I am. It's like even if it's not hot, it is just like wet all of the time.
Yeah,
Even if it's like 20 degrees, it is just
yeah.
wet.
I had like family that I would visit a lot in Missouri, which is like the Midwest area, and it is like hot and sticky. Like like you would
Yeah.
get out of the shower and you're like, I need to
Oh yeah.
shower again. I need to shower
Yeah.
again. Like it is just it's so like heavy. Um
Hmm.
Thank you for being here for the sprints.
Yes. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us and reading along.
Yes. And thank you for hosting some insomnia sprints with me, Kier.
It
I
was
guess not like
very fun.
officially insomnia because it's not that late for me. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still. Yeah.
It
And don't
gets
forget,
you.
yes. Don't forget to check out Kier. I have linked her below. And another shameless plug for me and Kelly and Kier and Yvette and Yara. We're doing
Yeah.
middle grade magic. Um, which you can find info about on all of our channels. So thank you guys for sprinting with us. Thank you to everybody who ends up watching these later. I know we get people who do that. And yeah, I hope if you are also having unpleasant weather, I hope you guys are doing okay and like, as much as possible because like sometimes there's not a lot you can do about it.
And you're just like
um
dying mentally inside.
yeah, yeah. So we will see you guys later. I'm sure we're gonna do more of these like late night chill sprints, which like chill, but I actually feel like I got a good amount of reading done, which is nice.
Yeah. It felt
So,
productive.
yes, it was chill and productive, the best combination. Um, yeah, so have a good night or day, depending on your time zone, and we will see you guys for another one at some point.
Bye.
Bye.